What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for UFC 306, also known as UFC Noche. This card very heavily intertwined with the celebration of Mexico's Independence Day. Hence the reason you're going to see a lot of Mexican fighters scattered all throughout the fight card, which should correlate to some solid action. We should be able to see that Mexican fighting spirit on full display. Every single fight has Mexico represented in it, except for the main event, right? Even when you're taking a look at fights like Ortega versus Lopes, no Mexican flags next to their names, but we know Ortega is of Mexican descent. He's a Mexican-American. Diego Lopes also has a strong connection to Mexico. And then the Raul Rosas Jr. Versus Aoriqileng fight, Raul Rosas Jr. is Mexican-American. It's actually not Aoriqileng. That's the one that's Mexican-American there. But every single other fight, you'll see fighters with that Mexican flag next to their names, and they're all fighters that bring it. I think we're going to see some real solid action. This card isn't as stacked as a lot of us thought it was going to be when Dana White started talking about it months back, as they were talking about all the money they were investing into this card. Dana White was really talking about this event as soon as the last year's UFC Noche ended, right? So we thought it was going to be a lot bigger than what this is on paper. We just got 10 fights, and it's very top heavy, but it's very top heavy. It's solid up there, man. At the top, Sean O'Malley taking on Merab Dvalishvili, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. I really like those top two fights, and I think we'll have a great time with this card, guys. So if I sound a little bit under the weather, it's because I am, to an extent. I'll tell you right now, man, I'm like, I feel like I'm Chris Farley right now. I got the ups and the downs mixing up, man. My Miami Dolphins just hit a walk-off field goal to win the game. I'm super ecstatic about that. We hit a clean sweep on our official plays last night on UFC Vegas 97. I hope you guys join me for the Fight Companion. We absolutely destroyed that card. We had an 8-unit max play cash. Okay, we had a big-time underdog play, a plus 235 underdog play on Chris Padilla. Taco Padilla, shout out to him. And then we had a main event cash on Sean Brady. I mean, we absolutely dismantled that card. We were one fight away from hitting another perfect clean sweep throughout the entire card. And believe it or not, it was our boy Trevor Peak that let us down there. So I got all that good stuff going on. But at the same time, I've been suffering from a stomach bug over the weekend. So make sure you're washing your hands and you're being careful out there, because it's super contagious. Everyone in Florida that I know, everyone in my circle, it's spread throughout everybody. And it was rough, man. So hopefully my voice isn't too bad here on the mic. Won't hold you guys up too much more. Just wanted to give you a little bit of some background before we jump into the first fight. You guys know how we do it here. We start with the first fight, work our way up towards the top. We're talking betting action, betting lines. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Please like this video, guys. If you want to work with me for my official plays, do not hesitate to reach out. We are an absolute fire. I got a lot of units to mess around with the profits we just brought in last week, and I am going to be dabbling in this card, to say the least. I see some solid action that I'm going to be targeting. So reach out to me if you're interested. Shoot me an email if you don't have social media. Otherwise, DM me on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll give you further information there. And the last thing I'll leave you with before we jump into the Raul Rosas Jr. fight is that we are powered by BetUS. Okay, this sportsbook is giving the best deposit matches out there. Okay, right now you can get a 150% match on your first 3 deposits. All right, so they even stepped it up from 125. It's crazy. If you sign up, make sure you guys let me know. I'll give you a code. You'll get an additional bonus, okay? And I have an additional gift to give you as well. So if you want to sign up to BetUS, make sure you reach out to me first and foremost. Let me know if you're signing up, guys. All right, leave you with all that. Let's go jump into the first fight.
The teller.
Now, this was a smart move by the UFC. They throw Raul Rosas Jr. in the first fight slot. Right, he's kicking the card off, taking out Aoriqileng Aoriqileng, fight taking place in the bantamweight division. This fight card only has 10 fights on it. All right, so smart move by the UFC. Get those butts in the seats. Get everyone glued to the TV right off the rip. Raul Rosas Jr. is really becoming a household name in the game. He's a polarizing figure, and it really has to do with his age, but he's been delivering as far as his fighting abilities go too. He goes out there, he puts on a show, he gets finishes. Right, I mean, you take a look at the work that he's been doing. Just got a submission over Ricky Turcios, had that crazy knockout over Terrence Mitchell. Did run into some adversity against C-Rod, but you guys know I am high on C-Rod. And I mean, he was still so young at the time. I mean, he's still so young now, but he's going to go through a periodical growing pains, at times. Okay, I'm not sure if Aoriqileng Aoriqileng is going to be the fighter to bring him back to a moment like that. If he is, what Aoriqileng Aoriqileng needs to do is keep this fight standing. If I have one major question mark in regards to Raul Rosas Jr.'s game, I would say that it is his striking. And that's what we saw in the C-Rod fight when he kind of struggled to get the fight down to the mat. C-Rod was the more technical striker, kind of outpointing him and whatnot. Raul Rosas Jr., kind of throwing these flailing type of shots. But early on in his fights, he does have some pop in his hands. He's a very strong and aggressive fighter there. And that correlates also to his grappling. He's very strong and aggressive and will rip you down to the mat, can really push the pace on you. I think that is his real strength that his opponents have to watch out and have to be prepared for. And if you're not prepared, he'll rip you down to the mat and he will sub you. Imagine what he's going to look like when he's 28 to 30 years old, right around that range. I mean, this dude's going to be like a Khabib out there. I mean, he's going to be like a Dagestani dude. His grappling's going to be phenomenal because it's already really good for his age. Of course, Raul Rosas Jr. got into the fight game very early. So even though he's so young, right, he's 19 years old, he's not a typical 19-year-old, right? He's going to hit his prime even earlier. I mean, he's going to be in his prime, in my opinion, when he's like 27 years old, just because he's been around the fight game for so long and his body will physically be peaking. He's going to be a problem, okay? Now, I have said that I would look to fade him in some specific moments where he's going to fight some opposition that can keep the fight standing. I'm not so sure if Aoriqileng is going to be able to keep this fight from going to the mat. And also, I'm kind of down on Aoriqileng right now. I thought that he showed to have, I don't want to say that. Let me bite my tongue there, man. But, I do question his heart after the Daniel Marcos fight. That was a fight that he was losing. He was getting beaten up. It was a dirty fight. A lot of low blows were going on. But eventually, he was hit with a low blow and didn't continue. And that was a fight where I think that he probably could have continued and he should have took his L there. But before that, and really all his wins in the UFC are against low-level opponents like Johnny Munoz, Jay Perrin, and Cameron Else. He had a knockout against Cameron Else, hit him with that body shot. Cameron Else is low-level, man. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that to a Raul Rosas Jr. But again, the route that he will need to take is to keep the fight standing first and foremost and try to showcase some striking ability. But I'm not gonna turn my back on Raul Rosas Jr. here. He'll have the crowd behind him, and I truly think we're going to see some rapid growth in Raul Rosas Jr.'s game. At 19 years old, he's going to start to really settle down into the octagon. He's going to feel more and more comfortable there. His overall game's going to round out, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some growth in his striking as well. But he doesn't want to keep it there the entire fight, at least compared to where the odds are at, because you wouldn't feel comfortable in a straight-up striking match with Aoriqileng. You want him intertwining the grappling skills. Raul Rosas Jr. is a big-time favorite. He's currently a minus 700, opened up as a minus 600. He did touch a minus 800, so it dipped back the other way. We'll see how this line trends, but I definitely expect Raul Rosas Jr. to still be a massive favorite. It's going to be somewhere right in this range, but it's kind of surprising to me. I'll tell you guys that. I really have Raul Rosas Jr. more as like a minus 600. So, you're kind of pushing it when you get past that. I mean, it's a crazy line. And I already explained to you why, because if Aoriqileng can keep it standing, it'll play out a lot closer than that. You're really banking on Raul to get it down there. I definitely will be doing a prop video for this card. So we definitely want to talk about some sub props for Raul, because that's what he likes to do. So we're going to look at some unders, some sub props and finishes and whatnot. But right now, I mean, I'm not going to push you guys to be targeting this crazy type of line. But at the same time, I'm not really pushing you to target any type of dog value on Aoriqileng, because, man, you ain't going to be, going to root for him in the first fight of a UFC Noche card against the young Mexican-American Raul Rosas Jr. is going to go out there, and he's most likely going to handle business. So we'll talk more about this fight on that next video. Trust me when I tell you guys, this fight will be fun. Joshua Van steps in on short notice to take on Edgar Cháirez. Edgar Cháirez was initially supposed to be taking on the Peruvian Kevin Borjas, who withdrew from the fight. Big shout out to Joshua Van for taking this fight. He's really living up to that nickname Fearless, because he was just knocked out brutally in his last fight. That wasn't that long ago against Charles Johnson. That was a fight that he was up and got a little reckless in there. He's a very aggressive fighter. We know that he does eat shots at times. He will look to eat a couple shots to push that volume on you and start to land on you. And it cost him in that fight. That was a fight that I really do believe he could have slowed the pace down and kind of cruised to a victory. And maybe that was a learning experience for him. He's still a very young fighter. Joshua Van is just 22 years old. So we go from one very young, promising fighter to another one. I'm still very high on Joshua Van. I think that he's rolling the dice here a little bit with this move. That knockout was, as I'm recording this, was less than 2 months ago. Okay, I'm not one that really favors fighters getting knocked out like that and then taking a fight that quickly. If I was his coach or his team, I probably would steer him away from doing that, just because with the skill set that he has so much time left in the fight game. He has such a bright future ahead of him regardless. It's not like he has to take an opportunity like this in order to keep his name alive in the octagon. I mean, this is a fighter that's going to be around for a long time. Trust me when I tell you guys that. But I'm not going to sit here and judge him for that. So he's taken this opportunity, and I favor him to win this fight. And I say that also respecting what Edgar Cháirez is about, because Edgar Cháirez is a very good fighter. Okay. And you guys know I've been high on Edgar Cháirez. He's a fighter that can scrap with you on the feet, but he's also a fighter that has a very tricky BJJ game. In fact, the majority of his victories have come by way of submission, and they're a variety of submissions: arm bars, rear naked chokes, guillotines. He does a little bit of it all. He's landed some tricky knockouts as well. On his fight on Dana White's Contender Series, he actually he showcased himself there as well. He took an L against the talented Clayton Carpenter, but that was a fight that played out very closely, and Carpenter was a big favorite in that fight, and that fight played out very closely. After he took that loss, went back to the drawing board, started getting victories in the regional scene before getting another opportunity in the UFC, and he went to a decision with Tatsuro Taira. Do I even need to say how high I am on Taira? You guys already know. I think going to a decision with him really showcases your level, because Taira's going out there finishing dudes left and right with his BJJ. So, and after that, basically had 2 finishes, but he had to run that fight back with Lacerda. I just think he's a dangerous dude. So this is a dangerous fight for Joshua Van, for the main reason that we talked about kicking this segment off. Van was just recently knocked out. Can Cháirez touch Van up a little bit and maybe wound him again? That's a very likely possibility. But I'm gonna back my boy Joshua Van here. I'm backing Fearless. I love the fact that he's fearless, taking this opportunity. He's such a fun fighter to watch. Look at that stat there. 8.55 strikes landed per minute. That's the type of volume that he can land on you. Once the fight starts picking up, if you don't get that knockout on him, he's just gonna start revving his engine, man. He's just gonna start landing on you like crazy. But also just take a look at the other number there too. Getting landed on at 6.34. So he's there to be hit as well. I want to make sure I'm clear on that situation. But I'll also be clear, I'm backing Joshua Van. I think he's a really good dude, a really good fighter, and he has a solid grappling game too. Okay, I talked about Cháirez's grappling game. Van's a well-rounded fighter too. He's a real complete mixed martial artist. I like both these fighters, but I think that Van has the higher ceiling. I just hope that he's rested up and he's ready to go for this fight. I will be taking Joshua Van to win a decision. I think that Edgar Cháirez has shown that he's a very tough and durable fighter. I think that he can make it to the final bell, and this will be a fight that really delivers for the fans. But right now, Joshua Van is around a 2-1 favorite, right around a minus 210 is Joshua Van. And, I would like to have him under that minus 200 line, but if you really feel like you got to have action on this fight, I'm going to tell you still want to be on the Joshua Van side. I say you roll the dice, even with him coming off that knockout. He's just so talented. And the line's not crazy. It's not like he's a minus 250 right now. You should be able to catch him right around minus 200. That's where the line's opening up, minus 200, 210. So it's not crazy. Sometimes Van, after some of his beginning performances in the octagon, he's starting to become a big favorite. There's a lot of respect behind his name. You can kind of get him while his stock's low right now because he's coming off that knockout. So give me Joshua Van to win a unanimous decision on the scorecards. To the women's strawweight division, and we're going to be talking about one of the brightest young fighters in the fight game, if you ask me. Another very young, bright star, and Yazmin Jauregui. I mean, her striking is really something to watch. I really enjoy watching her fight. She's rounding out her entire game, and she's going to be a very, very solid fighter by the time she's 28, 29 years old. This is a girl that's going to look to make a run in this division. Remember, I told you guys that now. Okay, she's taking on Ketlen Souza. Both these fighters had 2 tough losses in their second most recent fights, and they bounced back in a big way in their most recent fights. Okay, now Ketlen Souza had a victory over Marnik Man, so we're not going to put too much stock in that. Marnik Man, in my opinion, is not a UFC caliber fighter, but she went out there, styled on her, and won a unanimous decision there. But one thing that you have to note in regards to this matchup, right? So Yazmin Jauregui, we talked about how she was coming off a loss before the victory that she just had against Sam Hughes. That was a fight where she was knocked out within 20 seconds against the dangerous Denise Gomes. In that fight, I think that was a learning lesson for Yazmin. She just got a little bit too reckless in there, a little bit too cocky in her striking. And she showed that she can be hit, she can be hurt, of course. Anybody can, even these light women in these lower weight classes in women's MMA can still be finished at times. Okay, you have to be careful. It's very unlikely, but it does happen. But you got to love the way that she bounced back against Sam Hughes. But the point of me talking about that is that Ketlen Souza is a fighter that has 7 knockouts, and all of those knockouts, most of them happen in the first round, and then the other few happen in the second round. So she's getting early KOs in a lot of her wins. Okay, so she is a fighter that can threaten you there. If Yazmin comes in again, reckless and just so cocky, like she's going to go out there and just, put it on her right away, there's potential she can get cracked. But if she doesn't, first off, she's more likely to land that knockout in her own right early on, but she doesn't need to play with that fire. But even if she doesn't, she's just going to start dropping it in gears, man. She's going to be hitting it to the 2, to the 3, to the 4, Fast and Furious style, just ripping those gears. And she'll start piecing Ketlen Souza up. In my opinion, I think that Yazmin Jauregui is on a little bit of a different level, has a much higher ceiling. And I think that Yazmin's just, this is a fighter that you really need to keep an eye on. And just, again, watch her striking, watch her boxing skills. I mean, she's just so fluid and doesn't have a massive reach advantage or anything like that going on in this matchup. If you thought that was the case, that's not the case. She only has, when it comes to the reach, she has a 1.5 reach advantage. When you take a look at both fighters, if you watch tape on them, it seems like Ketlen Souza is a much smaller fighter. She's actually a half inch taller than Yazmin Jauregui, but for some reason, Yazmin looks a little bit more lengthy on tape. I mean, there's no massive size advantage or anything like that going on. Yazmin's just a much more fluid and technical striker that I think is going to have a lot of success in this fight. And if you're backing her, you really want the fight to just kind of progress, and she'll just completely take over the fight. Similarly to that 8-unit maxer, that second leg of the parlay that we just hit on the very talented Brazilian fighter Natalia Silva. I mean, these girls are the new blood of women's MMA. For all you fight fans out there that are listening that hate watching women's MMA, you guys know I love it. I mean, okay, stay tuned. You're going to see these very high level women start to work their way into the UFC. So when it comes to the betting line, you definitely wanted to be on this line much earlier. Minus 375 is where the line opened up on BetUS back on the 22nd of August. It's been up for a while. Now it's at minus 550. It's really getting up there. Tell you what though, for you guys that just feel like you have to have action and you like to target these crazy types of lines like that, I mean, that's a high one, but I'm telling you, I think that Yazmin's going to style on her and she's going to win. I'm going to say that she wins, kind of leaning more towards a unanimous decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Yazmin gets that stoppage too, like a second round stoppage, really pushing the pace and beating her down. Ketlen Souza was finished by a knee bar, right? Karine Silva hit her with the knee bar in her UFC debut. I don't really see anything like that going on, but she was knocked out in 2 fights in a row on the regional scene by a UFC caliber fighter in Ariane Cornelosi, and then after that by Diane Souza. Okay, so she's shown to be vulnerable to be knocked out at times. She had a rough patch there. Should I take Yazmin by TKO, man? It's hard for me to bank on these women getting these finishes, man. But listen, just don't be surprised if Yazmin gets a second or third round TKO, really pushing the pace with the striking. Okay, I think there is a possibility for that. I'm aiming more towards Yazmin taking over this fight, though, and getting a real solid unanimous decision, 30-27. That line's high, though, man. Maybe we could do something with that on the prop edition video, but or if you're just a degenerate, throw that in a 2-team, put the house on it. Don't do that. Don't do that. This fight is so fire, man. I'm telling you guys right now, in the lightweight division, Manuel Torres taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. This fight is going to deliver. I promise you guys. Okay, Manuel Torres having a lot of success early on in his fights. I mean, take a look at this. Even just inside the UFC, he is 3-0. And if you want to add the Dana White's Contender Series fight, he's 4-0. All finishes coming in the first round. But even before that, I mean, take a look at all the regional action that he's had. Barely ever leaving the first round. You could pull up one fight here against Enrique Gonzalez where he went to a decision. But other than that, a lot of early finishes and even an occasional early loss. He's had 2 early sub losses. Okay, so we do have question marks in regards to Manuel Torres going later in fights. Now, early on in his fights, we know he's very dangerous. And I think that he will potentially be live here to get a knockout because that's the type of fighter he is. But Ignacio Bahamondes is a fighter that's never been knocked out. He's shown to be extremely durable, even in fights where he's kind of had not the best showcasing of himself. We could talk about the losses like against Ludovic Klein, which Ludovic Klein is the truth. Understand that right now. So that's not a bad loss there. He was beaten up in that fight, but In the John McDessie fight, that was a war. It was a fight that could have almost went either way. They absolutely went to war. I think John McDessie probably deserved to win that fight, but still, listen, that was a fight where you saw when a fighter can close the distance on Bahamondes and make it more of a firefight in the pocket, he loses a little bit of that skill that he has. He's a fighter that's much better at range, throwing kicks and just all types of tricky stuff from the outside. He's a fighter that has been training specifically striking, but he's a real martial artist, learning from his dad from when he was a baby. There's pictures of him coming out the womb. They're strapping the black belt on him right away in the gi. I mean, this is a career mixed martial artist. He's the truth. I'm telling you guys right now, he's a real deal. He's a solid fighter. And I've been back and forth with my decision here, but I think you guys know where I'm going. I have settled in on the Bahamondes pick, and it's specifically for the fact that he's shown to be very durable and tough. And I say that he weathers the storm in that first round. And as the fight progresses, I've seen more from Bahamondes late in fights, right? We have a more proven track record, whereas we have some question marks in regards to Torres there. So I feel more comfortable being on Bahamondes there. And he's just such a talented fighter too. I mean, you have to understand, you're getting a very talented, tricky striker who can hit you with a spinning wheel kick like he did to Roosevelt Roberts. I mean, he can hit you with all types of wild stuff. He's working on his overall game as well. And when it comes to Manuel Torres, I think he really needs to close the distance and land heavy strikes in the pocket. And, he can have success there as well. But I'm going to back Bahamondes here. So I'm on Bahamondes to win this fight. And listen, would not be surprised if Bahamondes can get a later finish. In fact, I'm going to say Bahamondes gets a second or third round TKO. We're going to test Torres. We're going to see what he looks like late in this fight. So over on BetUS, Bahamondes opened up as a -150. The line's going the other way. Torres has been having action put on him. Bahamondes is now -120. I'll also note, of course, the crowd will be rooting for Torres. He will have the crowd behind him if this is a very close fight. It could lean his way. I'm hoping we don't have too much biasness going on with the judges, but I mean, who knows what the judges are going to be doing? You never know. But I think that Bahamondes, the way this line's going, I'm thinking Bahamondes is going to settle in as the underdog. Right now, it's essentially a pick 'em fight. I think that Bahamondes will be the dog by the time this fight takes place. So if you're looking to target it, you probably sit back and watch how far this line trends upwards towards that plus action. But I have Bahamondes winning this fight. I think he can get a knockout here, but could also take over the fight later and win a decision. And you're banking on his durability, and you're banking on him to create that distance as well. You don't want him sitting in the pocket too much trading, but both these fighters are very talented. And let me just shine light on this once again. Torres landing 8.14 strikes per minute. Bahamondes landing 7.15 strikes per minute. Okay, so both these guys have a very high output. It's going to be a fun fight. We got some rare women's bantamweight action set to take place here. Irene Aldana, the number 5 ranked bantamweight fighter, taking on Norma Dumont, number 9 in the division. Both fighters in their mid-30s, but Irene Aldana on the other way of the halfway mark at 36, Norma at 33. So, note that Dumont more in her prime age, while Aldana's getting up there. Okay, Aldana's had some tough weight cuts as well, so that's something you got to keep an eye on as she gets up there in age. Irene Aldana, when she's getting finishes, it's great. When she's getting wins, it's all great. But in some of those fights, man, don't forget, she's had to have comeback victories. Like the Macy Chiasson fight, that was a fight she was losing before landing that wild upkick, the upkick to the liver there against Macy. That was a fight she was en route to losing, and then she got a title shot after that. The Carol Rosa fight kind of picked up the pace as that fight went on, and it didn't look great the entire fight. So she's had moments like that. I don't want to say she suffers from giraffe syndrome, because even though there's a little bit of GS going on there, I mean, she's still pretty quick, and I think she does have a speed advantage as she'll be striking with Dumont. Dumont's a little bit more methodical, a little bit more. She's a little slower compared to Aldana, but at the same time, Dumont is very measured. She's an underrated fighter, in my opinion, but at the same time, people are also starting to catch on. People are starting to give her a little bit more respect. She keeps going out there and winning. She's not a bad fighter. I think that she'll be more measured here. I think she can land leg kicks and kind of mix things up, and I think she can get the job done here. She obviously has to be careful of the power that Irene Aldana possesses, but Norma Dumont, and as a pro, she's only been finished once. She was knocked out once upon a time, and that knockout did come by way of Megan Anderson, which isn't a good look there, but that we'll just chop that up as it was her UFC debut, and she just kind of dropped the ball there. But overall, she's shown to be pretty durable. A lot of people thought that she actually won that Macy Chiasson fight. So when you look at that Chiasson fight, if you're doing some MMA math there, that was a much more competitive fight, at least up until the point that Chiasson was finished by Aldana. But Chiasson was winning that fight against Aldana more convincingly than that fight, I would say. So something to keep an eye on there. She's coming off a victory against Germaine Durandamy, who once upon a time was a big fighter in the division, had a long layoff, and still a talented girl. But I'm on Norma here. I just think that she's a little bit more reliable. If we don't see anything crazy go on here, any type of knockout from Irene, I think that Norma should get the better of this fight. But you also have to be wary because let's just say Irene Aldana doesn't even get a knockout, but she lands some big strikes. Of course, the crowd will be going crazy. That's something you have to keep an eye on there. All in all, though, I do like Norma. Okay, Norma only being hit at 1.89 strikes per minute compared to Irene's 6.33. There's a major discrepancy there. I know Irene is landing at a higher clip, 5.24 compared to the 3.11 of Dumont, but still, I mean, this stands out a lot more to me. I think that Dumont could be measured and just get the better of this fight overall. So Irene Aldana opened up at even odds. Action's coming in on her. She's a plus 135 now. Okay, so we are on the dog. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to have a lot of dogs coming your guys' way. Stick with me if you guys want those dogs. If you follow me on IG at MMA Fortune Teller _ you saw me rocking the mullet staring out the window because we dog hunted the last card at plus 230. And we will potentially be dog hunting here too. We got a lot of dogs to talk about, but I like Dumont at the where the line's at. I mean, right now she's at even odds, and we could see her. She was a plus 105 recently. We could see her settle in like a plus 110. We'll see where the line goes, but action coming in on Aldana, and I like Dumont. In the flyweight division, we have Lazy Boy Rodríguez taking out Ode Osbourne. Ode Osbourne, very hungry for a victory here. He's been going through some turbulence. When you take a look at his resume as of recently, he's 1 of 3 in his last 4 fights. Had a closely fought decision over Charles Johnson, and Energy took that fight on short notice. Also note that. But I will say this, besides the Tyson Nam knockout, which that wasn't the best look, even though we know that Nam has some power, his last 2 fights were against decent level of competition here. Asu Almabayev is really good. Jafael Filio is a good fighter too. Submitted him early on in his last fight there. So I would say that Lazy Boy is a little bit of a step down in competition. I'm not extremely high on what I've been seeing from Lazy Boy. Even dating to when he lost on Dana White's Contender Series, where he took that L against Jerome Rivera, who went on to be on the Mount Rushmore of the worst ever UFC careers. If you take a look at what Jerome Rivera did in the octagon, and we could just pull it up for fun here, was submitted by Zalga Zumagulov, who ended up proving to be a very low-level fighter, was knocked out by Ode, lost the decision to Francisco Figueiredo, was knocked out by Tyson Nam. So he went 0-4 in the UFC, and I'd put him up there with some of the worst to ever do it there. The poor dude never fought again. But I guess so. Lazy Boy, man, if you guys don't know about him, he did just make his UFC debut against Denise Bendar, had that second round submission. I'm not that high on Bendar. I don't think he's that good of a fighter, but we'll give him some credit there. Lazy Boy showing some decent overall skills. He can kind of do a little bit of everything. I know he's been getting in some work with Eric Nixick over there at Extreme Couture. That's a good thing. I would like to see his strikes sharpen up. I would like to see him kind of throw his strikes a little bit more straight and down the pipe, kind of throws loopy hooks and whatnot. And I think that if Ode Osbourne fights an intelligent fight here, if he's on his bike and he's pumping that jab up, throwing those straight shots, I mean, he could really have success. He has a massive reach advantage here. He has an 8-inch reach advantage, does Ode. Ode, he struggles at times, though, with his cardio. He does have a bad weight cut. Remember, he was a fighter that's fought at the bantamweight division. But Lazy Boy is a fighter that doesn't really show to have the best cardio either, even though he's training over, he's been getting work also in, of course, in Mexico. You would think that that's helped his conditioning throughout the years, but doesn't look great late in his fights either. But I would say I do question Ode a little bit more so at times. Even in that fight against Energy, who took that fight on short notice. I mean, Ode was gassing in that fight as well. I'm going to bank on Ode fighting. I'll try to put some faith in him that he could fight a little bit of an intelligent fight and try to fight on the outside. I like the speed he has in his strikes, and I know he's hungry to get back into the win column. 32 years old. I think he still has more to offer the fight game. I like the fact that he's been fighting in the UFC for a longer period of time. I think he should be able to get a W over here against Lazy Boy. I'm just not crazy about what I've been seeing from Lazy Boy. And this is a dude that has, he's a household name over there in Mexico, if you didn't know. Lazy Boy with 544,000 followers. Maybe he could shout the teller out. I'm still struggling to hit that 10K mark. Can you guys go follow me on IG? Let's hit that 10K mark. I've been struggling to hit that for a while. At least we're hitting that 10K mark here on YouTube. We should be there now by the time you're listening to this. I know I'm hitting it for this video, so I appreciate you guys there. And you guys know I got a special gift for you. Looks like there might be a big free play coming your guys' way for this card. But, I'm going to be on Ode Osbourne. Not overly confident in the pick here. He opened up as a plus 140 dog. He's now a minus 105. He's still the underdog, so this is essentially another underdog pick to you guys here. A close fight. But I'm going to side with Ode Osbourne, using his speed and striking to just get the slight better of Lazy Boy. Fight should play out closely. You got to be careful with the judges. Crowd will be back in Lazy Boy, but as I break down tape, I lean towards Ode. Another great matchup here. I mean, honestly, the more I'm sitting here diving into each fight and breaking it down, I guess I am falling more in love with this card. I'm starting to appreciate it a little bit more. This is such a great matchup. As you break down tape on these fighters, you really know this is going to be a fight that delivers. There's a lot of fights on this card that are very likely to deliver for the fans. That's a great thing the UFC did with this event. Daniel Zellhuber taking on Esteban Ribovics. Zellhuber, representing Mexico, will have the crowd behind him. He's one of the true, bright, up-and-coming fighters, just 25 years old. Another fighter coming over from Mexico, getting in work with Eric Nixick, training over at Extreme Couture. This is a fighter that really knows how to use his distance management and his range. He's a lengthy fighter. He has a solid kicking game, and that's really when he's hitting on all cylinders. When he's at range, he could really he could pick you apart and really put a beating on you from the outside. We saw that in his fight with Prado, who is and that was his last fight against Francisco Prado, where he really bloodied Prado up. And Prado's a dangerous fighter, another young, talented fighter, has some similarities to Ribovics to an extent. And you saw him manage that distance and put a beating on him there. He's now on a 3-fight winning streak. He even got a sub over my boy Christos Giagos there, showing some development there, dating back to his last loss against Trey Ogden, who's a good fighter. Okay, and just caught him at a bad time there. But I think Zellhuber is really proving to be a dangerous fighter. And on Dana White's Contender Series, he had a victory over Lucas Almeida, who's a very good fighter. And that fight, there's one thing that we saw in that fight that I've seen a little bit at times from Zellhuber that I don't like, is he at times will have a little bit of a slow start, but once he starts picking things up, you see how dangerous he is. You want to see him kind of get off to a quicker start here against Esteban Ribovics, who will come out guns a-blazing. Did you see what Esteban Ribovics did in his last fight? Got the knockout in just 37 seconds over Terrence McKinney. But you have to note, Terrence McKinney, even though he's live to get his quick knockouts on his opposition, he's very live to be knocked out early. I mean, that's the type of fighter he is. So I don't think Zellhuber is going to be there just to be starched that early. I think this is most likely a fight that we're going to see play out and progress. And I like being on the Zellhuber side here. I think that he's a fighter that I think is very talented. Okay, so, and for whatever reason, I know they're different, but I kind of always categorized and glued together Bahamondes and Zellhuber. I guess because they both came off Dana White's Contender Series and they just been on my radar that they really have a high ceiling, and I think they could really put in some work. So, but over to Ribovics too. His only loss as a pro was to Loik Rashabov, who is a good fighter. And Ribovics finished that fight strongly. That was a close match, and I think that Ribovics is the real deal. And at the end of the day, though, I think that Zellhuber can keep this fight at range and just get the better of Ribovics, but he has to be on his P's and Q's. I have seen Zellhuber touched up a little bit at times. He's absorbed 5.06 strikes per minute. That's on the higher side of things. He's there to be touching. If Ribovics hits you with the right shot, he could hurt you bad. So he's got to be careful there. But Ribovics will have to close the distance, get on the inside. He's very quick. He has potential to do that, but I think that it will be Zellhuber that's just more measured and lands the more dangerous strikes and has the crowd behind him, which will also lean the judges towards his way. But I'm not even saying that's just the case. I think that he'll do enough to get the decision, but also having the crowd behind him will pay dividends. And this is a fighter you got to keep on your radar. I'm telling you guys that right now. He's just 25 years old, and this is another fighter that we will be talking about for a long time, and we eventually will be talking about him in some big spots. So you understand what we're talking about here. Got a lot of bright prospects on this fight card. So give me Zellhuber to win a decision. Ribovics is a fighter that has proven to be pretty damn durable so far. He's had 14 pro fights. He's never been finished. And I will take Zellhuber to win by decision, even though the majority of his victories do come by finish. He's a fight finisher. I'm going to say that Zellhuber uses his range, that 8-inch reach advantage, that advantage in the length in his legs too with the kicking game. But we don't see a finish in this fight. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that because they are going to clash, but I'll lean more towards a decision. I think we see a lot of blood and it's a war, but both men will survive. Both men have never been finished thus far. We've seen them take damage and really push through. So Daniel Zellhuber opened up as a -180 on the money line on BetUS, and he is now a -220. Okay, so we got action coming in on him. Now, he was recently a -240, so the line dipped back the other way. If you're back in Zellhuber here, you want to see that line come back up, or maybe you just grab it now before it goes back the opposite way. But maybe you chill, because I've seen a lot of buzz on Ribovics, and I wouldn't be surprised if the line does dip back the other way, if it starts to come back up, because people are high in Ribovics, and some people think there's some nice plus value there. On the other hand, I'm back in Zellhuber. I just think that he's good. I think he's good, and I'd rather be on him. And if you want to target him at a -220, not necessarily opposed to it, but sit back and maybe monitor the next couple notches, see which way it starts to trend. Daniel Zellhuber to win a decision. Hey, you guys, real quick, just want to say I appreciate all you guys that have followed me on social media. If you guys haven't already, go catch me on IG at MMA Fortune Teller _. I'm still battling to hit that 10K mark, so it would really help me out if you could go give me a follow there. Catch me on Twitter. I'm on TikTok now as well. I'm on TikTok at MMA Fortune Teller. And I got a Facebook going, the MMA Fortune Teller. You could search up my page there. I got all types of social media stuff going, so if you could follow me, it really means a lot to me. And also, if you want to work with me for my official plays, shoot me a message on one of those social media platforms. I'll reach out to you. I'll give you some further information there. And hey, I told you when we hit 10K followers, whether it was on YouTube or IG, I was going to have a special gift for all you guys. So I think we're definitely going to hit that 10K mark before this event starts. I'm really hoping so, because I want to give you guys that gift, and you guys probably know what it's going to be, but a big time free play that's going to cash, because I've been killing all the free plays I give you guys. It's been ridiculous. The Ilia Topuria free play, Dricus Duplessis free play, and even the last other couple ones are slipping my mind, but I mean the last like 4 official free plays that I gave you guys for free here on the channel, those videos that I did, they all cash. So you guys know the next one's going to cash too. So let's hit that 10K subscriber mark before this card kicks off, so I can give you guys that free play video. I will upload a dope one, and it'll be worth your while. It'll cash for you guys. And when we hit the 10K mark on Instagram, I'll do even something more special. Thanks, guys, so much. So here we go again. This fight hopefully will go down this time. Remember, Ortega had to withdraw the first time these guys were supposed to fight, and then Dan Ige got that phone call and zipped over to the arena in a couple minutes there and stepped in and fought Diego Lopes in what was the most short notice fight that we've ever seen in the octagon, I believe, unless maybe there was something even quicker, like back in UFC 3 or 4, where dudes are just like, oh, I'll step in like milliseconds before the fights were announced. I don't know, but I think that probably was the record for the quickest or the shortest time of notice before a fight. And you got to give Diego Lopes credit too, right? Because he had a different type of opponent to an extent, and he didn't look the greatest in that Ige fight. I thought that he would have won that fight a little bit more convincingly. It was a competitive fight. And, before that, he was running through dudes left and right. He was on a 3-fight winning streak going into that fight, finishing all 3 of his matchups there in the first round, including impressive victories over Sadiq Yusuff with the knockout there, the knockout over Pat Sabatini, submitted Gavin Tucker quickly. And then even his UFC debut against Movsar Evlovoyev was a very high-level undefeated fighter. That fight was very competitive, and he took that fight on short notice, very short notice. So, the one question mark I've ever had about Lopes was before he got into the UFC officially, he had a good amount of losses, right? He lost to Joe Anderson Brito on Dana White's Contender Series, had losses to guys like Nate Richardson, and, he had some earlier losses too, right? He was knocked out by Amir El-Zukriov, earlier losses. I lost to Thiago Silva back in the day. I've mentioned to you guys about Thiago Silva, the former UFC light heavyweight fighter that used to hang around a buddy of mine's tattoo parlor. Man, I was a wild dude. He'd be staying up for days. But I was a fighter that fought in the light heavyweight division. Lopes fought him. He's fighting in the featherweight division now. Think about how crazy that is. But now the fact that this fight has this new date, I think it benefits Ortega, because if you remember that initial fight, Ortega was taking that fight on more short notice, so he's had a lot more time to plan for this fight. Since that fight, we had Lopes just go in there and had that performance that we talked about that wasn't the most impressive. So there's some things going good for Ortega as well. Coming off a phenomenal finish over Yair Rodríguez after he had that shoulder injury the first time around. Then when he went out there and proved to be the better fighter over Yair when the fight actually progressed got that third round finish. I mean, you take a look at his losses. They're nothing to really look down upon. Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, and both those fights too, wasn't really finished, right? He went to a distance with Volkanovski. The Holloway fight, they had to step in because he took so much damage. But I mean, he's so tough. He's so durable. Got to give him credit there. And we just saw what Holloway did to Gaethje, so we know he could do that to you. Okay, so that's the thing. It's hard to gauge how good Ortega is. I mean, we know he's good. He's damn good. But is he really damn good? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, how good is he? Is he going to be able to hang with the fire of Lopes? And I'm really torn on which way I'm going for this fight. I think that Ortega has the higher caliber BJJ, and I'm very high in Lopes's grappling as well. But Ortega is just a little bit of a different animal there. The one thing that I like for Lopes is that I think that he shows to be a little bit more explosive with his striking. And at times we've seen Ortega eat shots. That's the one thing I don't like for Ortega. Look at the amount of strikes he's absorbed. Even though the numbers skewed a little bit from the Holloway fight, he has been landed on a lot throughout his UFC career. Landed on at 6.54 strikes per minute. It's a high number. And when you have an aggressive fighter like Lopes, who's going to come out there and look to throw that kitchen sink at your head, I worry a little bit about how Ortega is going to look early on in this fight. I also think that Lopes is a fighter that will be there to that final bell. He has good BJJ, like I said, so I think he can avoid maybe that submission from Ortega. And I've been very torn on which way I'm going to go with my pick here, man. I was almost settling in with that Ortega pick, but I'm going to stick with my initial pick that I had the first time around, which is Diego Lopes. And I'll tell you another key factor for why I like Lopes here. Lopes has been the much more active fighter. You may say you're not crazy about that last performance over Dan Ige. Dan Ige is a damn good fighter too. And it was a short notice replacement fight for Lopes too. It was a change of opponent stylistically. But Lopes has been very active compared to Brian Ortega's line of work over the last couple of years. Just note real quick, Brian Ortega, he coming in to that Yair fight, that the first time they fought was in 2022. The rematch was in 2024. He fought Volkanovski back in 2021. The Korean Zombie victory was in 2020. Meanwhile, Look at the line of work that Diego Lopes has been doing. I mean, you're going to see a lot of 2024s, 2023s. It's just dating back to 2023. That's when he made his debut. He's already fought 5 times in the UFC. So I like the activity of Lopes. He's 29 years old. He's just getting better. The striking is getting better. And it's a dangerous fight for him because Ortega is that damn good. I'm going to stick with the Diego Lopes pick. He opened up as a minus 170, a little bit of up and down action. He's a minus 175 right now. I think the value's on Ortega. I do, because I've been torn with my pick here. The betting value is on Brian Ortega. He's a plus 140. I want to be very clear here. I was very close to picking him to win this fight, but I'm going to say the betting value very well is on Ortega. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ortega gets a sub out there, a late sub. Eventually, as the fight starts to progress, he's slick out there. And but I also wouldn't be surprised if Lopes lands something big that shakes the fight up. So, which way am I going to go with my official pick of how the fight goes? So I got Diego Lopes to win. Do I think that Lopes can get Ortega out of there? I'm going to say no. Man. Ortega's damn tough. They had to step in and stop the fight against Max. Otherwise, he'll just keep coming at you. And the only other time that we saw him finished was he had the injury where his shoulder popped out. So, I mean, he's not a fighter that just gets finished, like typically. And I will take Diego Lopes to win a decision in a wild fight. All right. In the women's flyweight division, hopefully this will be the last time we talk about this fight. The way the last one played out was very disappointing to me. I thought Valentina Shevchenko won that fight. And the fact that Mike Bell scored the 5th round at 10-8 for Grasso was disgusting. I mean, if you wanted to try to score it for Grasso, throughout the other rounds, we could have argued on that. But the 10-8 was ridiculous. Valentina Shevchenko should have won that fight, in my opinion. So I'll just say that right now. It was a great bounce back fight for her after getting submitted by Grasso the first time. But let's also not forget, Shevchenko was, well, in my opinion, it was a close fight too, but Shevchenko was up before getting subbed that first time around. You see her getting in some work over here with a very dangerous girl, and Christine Fajeda, who's a nasty BKFC striker, a nasty boxer. Man, I would love to see her dabble back into the MMA world. She had some MMA experience, but she's a bad girl. I know people weren't crazy about her last fight, but she just keeps going out there and winning. She's a dangerous chick. So that's some good training that Shevchenko's getting in. And I hope Shevchenko is really getting in some work for this fight, which I obviously expect to be the case. I mean, when you talk about a fighter that's putting in that work and doing all her due diligence, Valentina Shevchenko is the fighter that comes to name. Okay, so the fact that she's creeping up there in age, I'm not overly concerned about it. She's 36 compared to Grasso's 31. It's obviously a lean towards Grasso as she's entering her prime, and she's going to get better and better. As Shevchenko, you would expect to be declining, but who knows, man, with a girl like Shevchenko, because she's so damn hungry to get this W. I mean, she's crazy. She's a freak of nature, and I'm sure she put in more work than ever for this fight. And overall, I think that she's the better fighter overall. And that's saying a lot because Grasso's very good as well. Grasso is a damn good fighter. So, and you see that she's been getting in some work over here at a Tiger Muay Thai, place that she's trained for a long time. You know, her Muay Thai skills are great. You see her longtime coach there. And I'm going to say that Shevchenko, I'll cut to the chase here. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Shevchenko at one point in time was arguably the GOAT of women's MMA. Obviously, she with a couple blemishes here and there, things haven't gone her way, and she's fell off from that. But this will still be a huge opportunity for her to get some respect on her name. Go out there and put a stamp on this trilogy with Grasso, and I think that she does that. I'm going to say she wins a decision, even though the crowd and all that's going to be going for Grasso. I think that she solidifies 3 rounds. I'm going to say she gets a unanimous decision this time. And I'm not saying it's going to be a walk in the park. I think the fight will be challenging. It'll be close, but I think that Shevchenko digs deep and has key moments that solidifies those rounds. Okay, so it should be a great fight. I think that we see a little bit of a different version with Shevchenko, and now she really has a read and a feel on Grasso. Okay, she's had time in the cage to learn everything Grasso's about. I think Valentina Shevchenko has very high fight IQ. I think that she puts it all together, and this time she really puts a stamp on this match, and she finishes the trilogy with the W, and she will be the champ once again. Okay, so over to the betting line. She's currently an underdog on BetUS. She opened up at a -115 at Pick'em odds, and we've seen a very slight lean towards Grasso's way. Shevchenko is now -105. Essentially Pick'em odds, slight dog odds in Shevchenko. I'm on another slight dog here in Shevchenko. I like backing Shevchenko in the spot. And you guys know I backed her every single time. In fact, I had a huge play on her in that last match, and I feel like I got screwed there. So not too happy about that, but it is what it is, and maybe we'll get redemption on him this time. Here we go. We're at the main event. We got the big fish here. We got the champion, the bantamweight champion of the world, Sugar Sean O'Malley, one of the biggest stars in the fight game, taking on Merab Dvalishvili, who's just an absolute machine. I mean, this guy is something else. I love the stylistic clash here. Of course, Merab is going to look to get those takedowns, work that ground and pound. Of course, Sugar Sean O'Malley is going to look to keep that range and land those tricky strikes, trying to get that knockout on Merab. You guys, you got to comment below. Who do you guys have first and foremost? I want to see it in the comment section. I want to tally it up and see who we're leaning towards here. You guys are going to see what my pick is here in a second. But Merab coming off a victory over Henry Cejudo, which was a very impressive performance by him. I understand that he was cracked by Henry early in that fight. That's one thing that you could take away from in a negative perspective about that fight. But the fact that he was picking up a gold medalist like Henry Cejudo, throwing him over his shoulder and throwing him around the octagon, that was crazy. Okay, I know he had a size advantage over Henry. Sean O'Malley's a much more lengthy dude. It's going to be a little bit harder with the leverage and whatnot. But if there's a guy that could do that to Sean O'Malley, it is Merab, because Merab is just an absolute animal. And I know I'll be very clear to you guys. I think that Merab is going to get in on Sean O'Malley, and he's going to get takedowns. Okay, what's going to be key for Sean O'Malley is, can he get back up? Can he continue to get back up, and can he inflict damage? Or, of course, the X factor, can Sean O'Malley knock him out early as he's coming in? The longer the fight goes on, I think it definitely favors Merab, because I just think that his cardio and conditioning is pretty much second to none. If you ask me, I think that his conditioning is crazy. I put him in the Mount Rushmore as far as his conditioning goes. Dude's an animal. And if you want to run through his resume too, I mean, victory over Piotr Jan, Jose Aldo, knocked out Marlon Moraes, victories over John Dodson, Cody Stamen. Casey Kenny's an underrated victory that he had coming into the UFC, even though I'm sure a lot of you guys probably heard. If you haven't heard Casey Kenny, remember how we were all wondering where he went because he was a fighter that was like in the top of the division, disappeared? Well, has some domestic violence charges coming his way, and he's got some issues going on. And if you saw a picture of him, he looks like a whole different animal. He ain't never coming back. Okay, but he was a good fighter once upon a time. That was a victory Merab had. I was just watching Sean O'Malley's fight with Thomas Almeida, where he got that knockout at the very end of the fight. So slick in that fight. Listen, let's talk about this for a second. This is something that probably a lot of you guys are forgetting for all you Sean O'Malley supporters. Sean O'Malley is a fighter that had a lot of durability issues towards the beginning of his UFC career. Remember the Andre Sukumtat fight? That was a fight where Andre should have clearly won, and he had very low fight IQ in that fight, and ended up going for takedowns in the third round when Sean O'Malley couldn't even stand up. He could have had a TKO. If you guys remember, that was a little harsh on Andre a couple times in the mic. If you guys heard this story, I bumped into Andre Sukumtat on the beach one time and said, "What's up?" Got a picture with him, and then he actually told me, "Oh, I know who you are. You're the MMA fortune teller." It was kind of trippy, and he was kind of giving me a dirty look at the same time. Like it was awkward, but that was a horrible decision for Andre Sukumtat to do that. But the point I'm making is that Sean O'Malley, I do have question marks in regards to his durability. I really do. I mean, I know that he's gotten better in that aspect. I think that he's done a lot of weight training and he's a little bit more physically strong. But I mean, you gotta be wary with him, man. You gotta be wary with him. In the Chito Vera fight, his leg gave out on him and was finished in that one there. But he is very tricky. He's very slick. And at range, he'll obviously have a lot of success on Merab. I just think that Merab is going to close the distance, and I think he's going to get takedowns. Okay, I really do. He's just a different type of animal. He's only been finished once. If you guys remember that fight where he was finished at the very last second, and how damn tough was he, refusing to tap against Ricky Simone. That was a fight where the fight basically ended, and then he was unconscious. They stopped the fight. That was a crazy one if you guys want to run that back. And I just believe that Merab has really excelled his game to another level over time. This guy's an animal. Okay, he's an animal, and he's hitting on all cylinders right now. And I'm back in Merab Dvalishvili to defeat Sugar Sean O'Malley. And I'm a huge Sean O'Malley fan, but you guys know when it comes to this game, man, what I do here, I'm targeting the money. I'm doing this as a pro. Okay, you guys know that. That's what I try to bring to the table to you guys, man. I'm not giving you biased picks. I love Sean O'Malley. I'm more of a Sean O'Malley fan than a Merab fan, but I think that the grappling is just going to be too much, and the dude's just made a steal. And I like Merab to get the job done here and to become the new bantamweight champion of the world. But he will have to close that distance, and that's something he does very well. And the cardio, keep an eye on that cardio. It's not like Sean O'Malley could stuff some takedowns and then Merab's going to start gassing out and Sean can start picking him apart. It's not going to play out like that. Merab will just continuously chain wrestle and shoot and shoot and shoot. And I don't know if I could trust Sean to stuff all that. And I'm curious how Sean's going to look on his back too. So, but Sean, listen, I'm giving you guys the pick with a lot of conviction, but I do want to say Sugar Sean O'Malley is very dangerous to land a knockout in this fight. And he's a fighter that's evolved a lot throughout the years and has some serious tools as well. So he's dangerous, of course. Let me not just give you the pick like, oh yeah, it's a guaranteed Merab pick, but I also like to put some conviction on the pick, make it exciting for you guys. I'm on Merab Dvalishvili to win this fight. This fight opened up at pick'em odds. Merab was a favorite at one point in time. Now he's the slight underdog. I'm giving you another slight underdog pick on Merab here in the main event championship fight. I got Merab winning this fight via decision, but I would not be surprised if he could actually break Sean. Wouldn't be surprised, but a decision pick there as Merab becomes the new champ. Who do you guys got? All right, guys, got to hit you up with some closing thoughts. Got to give you some deep ones here, huh? For a big card like this. Check this out. The other day, I heard some dude, I think it was online, actually. It was on like a YouTube interview. This guy was talking about how he had nothing to live for. He had no kids. He had nothing to live for. Didn't feel the importance of life. And what kicked in my mind at the time, I was, how I was feeling, but I understand that people could be at different points in their life because I've been through the ups and downs too. But what was hitting me as I was starting to feel that fall energy come, seeing the football games starting to come on the TV, the college football games. And I was, it's not cold here in South Florida, but you could almost kind of feel the fall energy somehow just coming, even though it's blazing outside. But I was just kind of thinking how I was so excited, man, for this cool air to start coming in and how there's just always something positive to look forward to. Football, or you got UFC action, and just the fact that you could wake up any given day and you could go out and socialize, man. You can go to the mall, you go anywhere you want, and you could just try to socialize with people. You're going to run into some bad eggs, but occasionally you're going to run into some good people, whether it's at the bar, the park, whatever, the dog, whatever you guys do, the dog park, anywhere you could bump into people, watching some sports with that crisp air just flowing on your neck, and whatever other little side things you do that are safe and not dangerous and bad for you. You know what I'm saying? Balance yourself, but there's a lot of things you can do to feel good, you know, whatever you do. And life's great. So always just remember that life is so great and you're so blessed to have this opportunity. Think about how many thousands or millions of these little sperm eggs that you battled against to be here today, man. You won that. So this is a blessing. Take advantage of being able to walk around this planet here and just enjoy the time we have here until whatever's next. And we figure out as we go, and or whatever, you know, whatever you got going on, you know what I'm saying? So just think about that. And if you're feeling a little negative, try to just physically and just mentally, just even if you don't believe in it, just give yourself positive thoughts and see how it changes you. Just every day, just keep throwing the positive thoughts, even though it might be in your head like, this is BS. I really don't feel like this. Keep throwing the positive energy out there and watch how you start to change and you feel better. All right. Keep yourself positive. All right. God bless you guys. Enjoy this event. Hope you guys all have a great one, a profitable one. All right. Keep in touch, man. Hit the comment section up on my IG, my Twitter. Hit the comment section up here on YouTube, and I'll always interact with you guys in the comment section. All right, guys. Signing out. Teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller.